So one of my awesome patrons, Jack Petrie, has requested that I review Apocalypse Now, the 1979 Francis Ford Coppola film that was an absolute nightmare to make and did pick up a slew of Oscar nominations in 1980, including Best Film and Best Director, neither of which it won. Both of those went to Kramer versus Kramer. Now, I love Kramer versus Kramer as much as the next guy. I think it's a really great film with some really great performances that pushed like an idea or a particular aspect of society that wasn't being discussed at the time, which is, single fatherhood and the reasons for that, and this, that, and the other. But yeah, it was a timely film. It was a good film. It was a much needed film, and it was a very well made film. But when you consider that it beat Apocalypse Now at the Oscars in the category of both Best Director and Best Film, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Now, on every technical front, Apocalypse Now, I would say, is a better film. To me, that's just plainly obvious. It doesn't take a genius to see that. You just look at the film. It's insane. Now, the film is a loose retelling of Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, a story I'm not familiar with, haven't read, can't claim to be an expert on it, but yeah, it's a loose adaptation of that, only moved into the Vietnam War. Very similar story of a ship captain, Captain Willard, sent deep into the jungle to find this man Kurtz, and assassinate him. And that's all there is really to the plot, the story that is. It is a very thin story. This isn't a film that's about that. It's a film that's more about the experience. Now, that's not to say there isn't a lot of character depth in it, a lot of development for characters. On that side of things, it is a very rich film to come into. But don't come into it expecting tons of story and loads of plot devices and whatnot. This literally is a captain with a bunch of men on a boat travelling upriver, deeper and deeper into the heart of the jungle. And the further he gets into the heart of the jungle, the more mad things get, the deeper the insanity. And that's essentially what Coppola was going for. He wanted to take a look at the Vietnam War and the insanity of it, just how mad and bonkers and messed up the whole thing got. Now, this, as with many war movies, does look at the horror of war. Like one of the most famous lines of it is literally Brando, little like fat Brando, kind of lay on the floor, the horror. You can kind of, you can make some memes of that, I would imagine. But it does go into the horror of war, which is what most war movies are concerned with. But more than that, this is more about the insanity of it. We see things where people are acting as if nothing's happening around them. It really affects their mind. They go large in other areas in order to take their mind off the fact that they could die at any moment, or even the boredom of it. And to say that war could be boring is madness in and of itself. And then you have characters like Robert Duvall's character, who you can tell this is life for him. This is where he wants to be, and he is saddened by the fact that he knows one day the war is going to be over. It's something he says at one point, is that one day this will all be over. And the most telling thing about that line is not the line itself, but in the way in which it's delivered by Duvall. As you see that tinge of regret in his eyes, in his face, that he's not going to get to play in that playground anymore. That's how he sees it. It's absolute madness. And then you've got this character of Willard, Captain Willard, played by Martin Sheen, who was absolutely robbed of, at the very least, a nomination for Best Actor. The fact that he wasn't nominated for this film shows that Hollywood has seriously got a screw loose. I mean, what have you got to do to get a nomination? This guy literally had a heart attack for this role, making this movie on a 260 odd day shoot, which is astronomical for anyone familiar with like what a shooting schedule for a movie, Hollywood movie is, I guarantee something like Kramer versus Kramer, what, 40 to 60 days tops. Yeah, 260 odd day shoot in the harshest conditions that you could possibly imagine, with all manner of things getting in the way of production. And that has its toll. It takes its toll. And in the case of Martin Sheen, as I say, he had a heart attack during the production of this and was back a couple of weeks later working once more. So yeah, I don't know. What you got to do to get a Best Actor nomination, I have no idea. But his character essentially starts out the film crazy, and his journey is one almost of like going into the insanity and coming out or getting to the end making maybe the sanest choice. I don't know, maybe not. Certainly not the most moral choice, but in the world in which he is pitched, perhaps he is the most sane individual amongst this world of crazy people that he's entered into. But yeah, certainly he doesn't start out the film that way. This is a man who is literally going insane in a hotel room, waiting to be given a mission. Again, it's a little bit like the Robert Duvall character. This is a man who has been conditioned by war, who has seen so much of it that now he doesn't know how to do anything else. We get a voiceover from him throughout the film, and that partly gives us an inkling as to what his home life was like. He's been to war and then he's been back home, but after being at war, he can no longer survive at home. It's dull, it's boring, it's just, there's nothing left for him there. So now he's out in Vietnam and he's waiting for a mission. And while he's waiting, he's going absolutely insane in a sequence that is just, as I say, some of the best acting that I've ever seen on film. And you could say it's literally a man going insane. It's Martin Sheen digging deep into the depths of his, the absolute darkest spots of his human condition, so to speak, and just letting them out, letting them pour out. And it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch, but somewhat thrilling at the same time for in a very twisted kind of way. It feels wrong to watch it, and yet you can't take your eyes off the screen as it's unfolding. And then, of course, we've got Kurtz, played by Marlon Brando, who, as I say, at the time, if anyone's seen the documentary Hearts of Darkness about the making of the film, shot by Eleanor Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola's wife, it's one of the best behind the scenes or making of documentaries I've ever seen on a film. It really, it shows some things that, your fluff pieces that they make today about the behind the scenes stuff just don't show you. It really, warts and all, it puts everything on screen and you realise how hard this was to make. But one of those things that made it hard was Brando, who at this point in his career was really, he wasn't the sanest of people. I think he was going off the rails a bit, but he had a weight problem, despite the fact that he'd assured Coppola that he was going to get the weight down. That didn't happen. When he eventually turned up to the shoot, he was actually heavier than he was before he got cast. They just couldn't get to grips with the character, and Brando he was adamant about sticking to his contract. He had a contract that if he didn't get his scenes shot within a particular time frame, he was free to walk, along with the $1 million that he was getting paid, which for what is essentially a small role right at the end of the film. It's everything that the film is leading towards, but it's still a very small role with regards to screen time and input overall. But yeah, he was very difficult, and Coppola had to make certain decisions with regards to how he was going to handle it, which ultimately turned out, I think, to be the best decision. He could have halted production, gone away, written more clearly the dialogue for this character, and then come back and spend a day maybe shooting it, in which case you've really got to hurry up, or just let the cameras roll, let these guys ad-lib and see what kind of crazy ass stuff comes out, which again, as I say, worked out for the best in the end, but very big risk and a financial one to Coppola as well, seeing as he was paying for much of this movie out of his own pocket. Now, with all that craziness going on, you would think that something would show, like strain on the film, like bloated mess kind of stuff, self-indulgent, all that kind of stuff that's going on. But it's not. It kind of works because of the story that Coppola is trying to tell. As I say, he's trying to tell this story about the madness of war, the insanity of it, how people go literal crazy. And when you've got the actors going through all these conditions and all these things like heart attacks and just Marlon Brando's craziness, it kind of works in the film's favour. These men that are out in the jungle literally do look like they've lost their minds, and that's partially because, in the case of the actors, they have. Now, on a pure technical level, this film excels in every regard. It did pick up nominations for editing. I don't think it won for that. Picked up nomination for Best Cinematography, which it did win for Vittorio Storaro, who's, absolutely phenomenal. With regards to the look of the film, this is one of the most iconic kind of... So many films call back to what Apocalypse Now did. Even Kong Skull Island. You look at the cinematography in Kong Skull Island, like so much of it is harkening back to what was done with Apocalypse Now. It looks incredible, absolutely incredible. I would say with regards to like production design and cinematography, the only film that comes close to giving this a run for its money back in 1979 was Alien, which is another film that was absolutely snubbed by the Oscars. Only picked up best production design, I think it was. No best film nomination or anything like that. Not even, just crazy. Absolutely crazy. Personally, my choice for best film that year would be Alien, but a very close second, I would have to say, would be Apocalypse Now. Now, it's not all enjoyment, it's got to be said. A lot of stuff in this film is very hard to watch and at times is actually quite sickening. Towards the end of the film, there is a sequence, and I'll say this just for anyone who's not seen the film. I think going in knowing this, I don't know if it's a help or a hindrance, to be honest, but I know that when I saw it for the first time, and every time since, to be honest, it's kind of sickened me a bit. So there was a sacrifice of a bull by a tribe that was in the jungle. So this wasn't orchestrated by Coppola or the filming crew or anything like that. This was actually taking place, irrespective of what they were doing. So Coppola decided, you know what, I'm just going to film it. I'm going to film it and I'm going to use it. And it's used to great effect. Again, editing-wise, the film is absolutely brilliant. The way things are edited together, the contrasting what's going on with this sacrifice of the animal with what's happening elsewhere on screen, just a masterstroke of editing. As is the whole film, to be honest, but the opening as well, in particular, where you've got Sheen's character looking up at a fan on the ceiling, and then we're getting it fades into it's like a painting, basically. All these images are fading in and out of each other, and we've got the way that, right down to the way Martin Sheen's face is framed upside down, literally to show that his world is being turned upside down. He is going stir crazy in this hotel room. Everything he sees is reminding him of everything he wants to get back to. So you got the fan on the ceiling reminding him of a rotor propeller on a helicopter, and then the mixing in with the sound of that, just giving it a real dreamlike feel throughout the whole movie, but particularly in that sequence, but also just getting us into the head of this character through the editing process. So yeah, a much deserved nomination there for the editing. Once we've got the setup, once Willard is in the boat with a crew heading up through the jungle, everything from that point on, it's kind of pliable with regards to editing, with regards to what you leave in and what you take out. There's much of it you could take out and it wouldn't really make that big a difference to the film, but so it becomes like a series of vignettes, really. You got little little moments in the jungle, here, a bit here, a bit here, a bit here. And you could take that bit out and just go straight from there to there. That wouldn't necessarily matter. But each segment just gets you deeper into that madness, deeper into the insanity. Is everything in there necessary? No, probably not. I think some stuff could be trimmed, some stuff could be cut. It doesn't feel overly essential all the time. But that's a minor quibble. I think that's where where a hint of self-indulgence comes in. And it's something he was aware of. You hear him talking about that on Heart of Darkness. As one of his fears, in fact, was that he was getting a little self-indulgent. And that was due to that astronomical shooting schedule where it just kept on getting dragged out and on and on and on. And it got to a point where I guess he couldn't see the wood for the trees. It's like, am I just filming too much? Have I got so much to play with here that I am going to suffer from self-indulgence? And I think, to his credit, for the most part, he doesn't. But I would say where an argument could be made is in the fact that, yeah, okay, you have shot a lot of stuff and you are going to use it, simple as. But with regards to, could this have been a 2-hour film instead of a 2.5-hour film, 3-hour film? Yeah, I think it could. There are certain things as well, like political aspects to the film, that are achieved just through sheer visual representation without actually commenting on them. Something which I feel like films these days wouldn't kind of get around. Like these days we have to bash you over the head with it. We have to point something out that, hey, look, we're making a commentary about racism and stuff. Whereas if you just show certain things, if the viewer is keen enough, a keen observer, they'll notice it. Now, I don't know if this was intentional or what, but it seemed to me that the deeper into the jungle we got, the less white people we saw working for the US. So obviously you're going to see less white people, the deeper you go into the jungle, with regards to the natives. But if you like, every so often they'd come across like a military base, the deeper into the jungle they got. And the one that's like furthest into the jungle is mostly black guys, And it's just, you say all you need to say with that, with regards to the racism within the military at that time, we'll use the blacks as the grunts. We'll send them right up forward. They can do all the dirty work that's in the furthest reaches of where no one else wants to go. And all that said, just by sheer numbers on screen, just like if you're watching, if you're paying attention, it's like, oh, isn't it funny how it's all the black guys that are out here? Why is that? And it's all done by showing and not telling. And I really appreciate that. Like I say, I don't know if that was a conscious effort by Coppola, but yeah, given his skills as a filmmaker, particularly around this period, I can't believe that it was anything but intentional. So Apocalypse Now is a truly great war film, one of the best. If you're looking at top 10 war movies, I think this is amongst those top 10, certainly with regards to its influence as well. You can see all the heartbreak on screen that went into making this. I look at a film like Kramer versus Kramer that's just, it's people talking in rooms, it's courtrooms, that kind of thing. It's nice, cozy studio settings, built sets, homegrown locations, that kind of thing. It's filmmaking in relative comfort. Now, that's not to dismiss the achievement of a film like Kramer versus Kramer, but when you look at what it takes to make a film like Apocalypse Now, it's staggering to me. It's absolutely staggering that, Kramer walks away with all those awards. It blows my mind. But then again, when have the Academy ever really been too much on the ball? Apocalypse Now, for me, if it's a toss-up between the films that were nominated, Alien wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but if it's just a toss-up between the ones that were, then this is the clear winner for me. It's a bit of a no-brainer, but yeah, there you go. It's the Academy for you. If you have seen Apocalypse Now and even Apocalypse Now Redux, which I have seen, for me personally, I prefer the theatrical cut. I feel like, you take those issues I talked about with the stuff in the midsection where certain stuff could be taken out. I feel like all Redux does really is put more in. And it's like, okay, I could have actually taken some of that out, and now you're putting more in. So again, it's great, still great film, but it's unnecessary. I think everything that you need for it is right here in the theatrical cut. That's just my personal opinion. What about you? How do you feel about the two different versions? If you've only seen the one, how do you feel about that? Do let me and Jack Petrie know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching this review, and until next time, cracking.